welcome back to the MHR Podcast. I'm Alice.
And I'm Andy.
And as we've been previously doing for the past few weeks, we are looking at the predictions of 2024 and the roadmap. So we've been looking at our guide and taking ideas that they've got from there. And we've had a bit of discussion, haven't we, about several topics.
So hopefully you've been listening to us already this year, and you would have noticed that in the last couple of weeks. So at the start of the year, we did a deep dive into payroll and all the key issues and challenges that will face both payroll departments but businesses as a whole. And last week we talked about HR. So what are the key challenges for HR departments, but also what are the key HR challenges for businesses, and what role can HR play with technology to support those? And I suppose this week we're talking about
finance.
Finance. So now for me, I'm not a very finance heavy person. So I'm always like, oh, finance, that'll be a boring one. But it isn't. I think what our guide and our research has showed in our roadmap for 2024, which we're referencing today, is that finance obviously underpins the whole structure of organisations. And what the challenges, I suppose, we'll talk about today aren't just challenges for a finance department. The challenges for a business function as a whole. And we're going to look at how that we can support finance departments, but we can also support the finance function of a business and how that can affect employees and employers. Is that right?
Exactly. That is exactly what we're looking at. So with our guides, we are going to go through a couple of the challenges and concerns. And just to start us off, I've got here that CFOs and their board, they're focused on top three concerns. So 72% of them are concerned about profitable growth.
Obviously, yeah.
We've got 65% concerned about inflation.
Of course.
See that on the news all the time.
Yeah.
And 52% are concerned about the balance sheet health.
Okay, so key, clear finance worries that I'm sure are consistent every year, but it's nice to see where the shift of focus is in terms of what they're worried about. Obviously, I think it says a lot with 72% concerned about profitable growth.
Indeed.
Signs the economy as it is, but worried about how we can grow businesses. So I suppose now we know they're the key drivers behind what are concerning CFOs and their teams. What are we saying in our research that we need to do to support that?
So, start of our guide, and this one is the biggest challenge for the finance teams that they'll be facing. They have faced for the past few years, but again, it's an ongoing challenge for 2024, and that's retention.
Of course it is. Retention.
We knew it was coming.
Retention. It even says it that way in the guide, actually. Because it's not just a finance problem, isn't it? It's a business problem.
Exactly.
It's a HR problem. It's a payroll problem. It is expensive to recruit.
Yeah.
The recruitment market is, and we've talked about this already before, is highly competitive.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. And actually, if you're not retaining your staff, you're not retaining your experience, which means you've got a high turnover, which costs you a lot of money, but you're also stifling growth. And if you need profitable growth, you need to drive momentum on the workforce that you've got, and you need them to grow so the business can grow.
Exactly.
So retention is a key issue.
It is, definitely. And I think what kind of puts a slightly different tilt is with finance teams, I think we can agree that they have specialised hard skills as well.
Yeah.
Especially in that sector. It says here in our guide that they're actually struggling to bring in new blood.
Yeah.
So we talk about retention, but actually I think it might be heightened for finance teams in the financial kind of sector. Because like we say, we're looking at people that have those hard skills and in a sector that you need to develop those skills. So not just are you trying to get into the sector, but whilst you're there, you have to build up and you have to kind of retain that momentum, don't you, to remain in that position. So one thing we mentioned here is that finance has been growing, but we're looking into more system-based function.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where we start talking about the technology behind and the software that can be supporting the finance teams.
So much like we've talked with HR and payroll, we're talking about, well, actually, how can your people software, your payroll software, your finance software automate jobs and empower your employees so you're removing those burdensome or tasks which are either manual or clunky, which aren't empowering your people to be working on the things that they should be focusing on.
Exactly. And when you kind of look at that perspective, we're talking about retention, like I say, those kind of mundane or quite tedious tasks that might fall in the finance sector, the finance teams. If we're looking then at the technology, how can we support them and making their jobs more efficient?
Yeah.
So one thing we're looking here is actually you need to do a combination of skills which are getting harder to find.
Yeah.
But as a result, you're kind of fighting for employees. But actually, how could you now be investing in your finance team? What could we be investing with technology?
Right, I see. Okay. So actually, does it kind of work there as actually the more investment you put into your team in terms of your digital transformation, the software finance platform, the software for finance that you use, the software for payroll that you use, if you invest in that, you're probably going to support your employee retention because you're giving them the tools to be able to do their job better. At the same time, you're not running the risk of actually, how do we get new people in to do these jobs? Well, actually, no, our software can do these jobs, and actually it means we can get more out of our people.
Exactly. And one thing that our product owner here picks up on, Richard Mellors, is that when you're looking at retention and your finance teams, it's not just about kind of focused on money and paying them more. Actually, you need to understand what the layout of the land is for them. What is it they're looking for? What is it that they're doing on the day-to-day, and how can we be making that more efficient? And I guess when you're looking at efficiencies, we do look at how can you improve your technology to assist.
Nice.
So a quote we've got here is, as we move into 2024, competition for top finance talents will be hot, and they will be hottening up, but employees should consider how they can plan to attract, develop, but retain these employees. So quite a key thing there.
Perfect. Good. All right. So I think that covers retention nicely. So headlines are actually an investment in a system to make people's processes easier, to empower their skills and look for their development is a better approach than trying to maybe just expand the team and new talent.
Exactly.
And struggle to retain. Actually, let's look at the people you've got now. Focus on retention will help your focus for profitable growth.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And on that point, actually, when we're talking about growth, if we take a look at maybe the business perspective, the second point we have here is actually costs are on the way up.
Okay.
I think it's affecting everyone from personalised business right across the board, isn't it?
So I suppose that goes back to concern number 2 for CFOs and the boards is inflation. So
very much
if
so.
cost is on the up, that's why we're worried about inflation.
Yeah, and our Richard Mellors here says that the inflation that we're seeing at the moment, all costs are going through the roof. Employee costs are going through the roof, and it's not sustainable.
Okay. So rising costs are threatening to cripple business of all types. So there is likely to be a period of stagnation where the economy doesn't grow. People are just reluctant to invest, and this can lead to issues. And I suppose that goes back to the previous point. If you're not investing in software to support your people, you're making your people's life harder, so you're not going to retain them. So that's going to cost you more money to recruit. So actually, it's a spiral now. This is not good.
Where are we heading now? But what's quite a key point is finance departments are actually uniquely equipped to handle rising costs. So if you think about kind of the function of them, they're there to maximise profitability where they already have it. But also they can look at ways that they can be working more efficiently across the business and who they need to be bringing in and who they're reporting to. So like I say, you're looking more at the strategy side overall. So on that point there, it's probably quite an important move for 2024 for the finance teams. I think probably their responsibility is becoming even more so, especially when you're looking at how can they be improving their forecast and their budgeting and the capabilities of the business.
Yeah. It's a really interesting way to look at that. Obviously, I don't work in finance. I take it for granted. Maybe I have a small understanding of their roles, but actually looking at if we're worried as a business in terms of cutting costs or retention, we've got to look at the people whose their expertise are to look at how they can make more efficiencies from our budget. How can we get more from our money? How can we spend better? How can we business plan better? Like, these are the teams that actually can be supporting us the best, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I think when you're looking as well, if you're integrating technology, it's probably because it's becoming a more sophisticated function within the business, isn't it? So when you've got more sophisticated forecasting and modelling solutions, you're looking at becoming more robust as a business.
Yeah.
So again, kind of, even though the costs are going up, if you're building yourself to be more robust, then you're probably more adaptable to the changes. And like say, if you've got inflation coming in and you've got the forecasting, then maybe you are adaptable and you're flexible as a business to tackle that problem.
We've talked about this a lot as well. I suppose one of the key things for this is, because you're talking about making sure we can plan ahead, right?
Indeed.
We can have a better sight of the issues of the rising costs, so we can plan better, so we're not wasting money.
Yeah.
And we talk about this again and again and again, but to me, it all comes back to this point that we make, which is data.
Indeed.
Right? So one critical improvement is data integration. Okay? So by integrating your finance or operational data, you can see that where finance departments are able to create more holistic views or where they of the organisation with all the information at their fingertips. So it's about making sure you've got a people system, a finance system, a payroll system, a HR system that may be one solution or works together or integrates to make sure that you have a complete, comprehensive, single source of truth on your people data, so you can start making more informed decisions about what you need to do to support your people, but also to make sure you're tackling things such as rising in costs, rising in inflation. So you're informed. You're not just winging it in the air or going, okay, that but 10% this year. It's like, no, so we're learning this from our people, which means we can make this decision, which means we can save our costs in this way. And that's where data integration is integral, because that speeds up the entire process from transaction to close and doesn't require a fundamental cultural shift then, as more involved upgrades might, right? Just integrating your data is key, and making sure your HR payroll software is talking together.
Exactly. It's probably easier for us to say than to actually do.
Yeah, because we say this every week because it's true, and that's what we do here. We make sure people have a better sight of that data, so our softwares talk. You have a better way of working, but it's true.
Yeah. So the final quote we have here actually is that in 2024, finance teams will become a key defence against rising costs, optimising budgets without cutting things right to the bone.
Cool. Brilliant. Awesome. So that leads you to our last point I feel like you're going to talk to us about today.
Yes. Autonomous finance isn't a pipeline dream.
So now we're coming back again to this message of systems, automating processes, and how this can support. Okay.
Indeed.
Cool.
I think probably the underlying theme this week is efficiency, isn't it?
Yeah, it's efficiency.
It sounds like
efficiency through digital transformation, right?
Indeed.
Why do I feel like our friend AI is going to come up again?
Might be crawling its way back through.
Yeah.
So, autonomous finance is a term for process and activities that are at least partly operated by self-learning and self-correcting software.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't just automate mundane processes, it's basically capable of delivering real-time predictive insights, and you can match compliance requirements. And at that point, kind of the outcome is you're making your financial strategies more flexible.
Okay, so finance teams can often find it difficult, right, to create the kinds of reports businesses find useful because their approach to wider organisations don't kind of line up with maybe how other teams work. So without investment, finance teams can find it can become fragmented, which leads to silos. Autonomous finance link up your data to prevent this. So you're speeding up the whole process, ensuring that you can find more intuitive ways to get insights and how you can use your people data, right? So the rising cost of doing business, doing the business I'm trying to talk about is that we serve as a particular driver for this. You have to get smarter or do things in a more efficient way with the same resource than you had before, right?
Exactly.
The thing is, the costs are coming up. We can't spend more money to do this. We need to go, well, with the budget we've got, how can we solve this problem, right?
Yeah.
So that resource is going to cost a little bit more, so you need to get a bit more out of it. So this is when the automation comes in. Automation is about getting the jobs done that you always need to do, but maybe you're taking those human hours out of it.
Exactly.
Maybe you're freeing up the resource you've got as a company that you're already paying for in those people to focus on some bigger issues so that automation can take the manual process or the areas where you're going, those manual areas, out of the hands of people to free up your time because there's value in those people's time.
Yeah, and like we mentioned right at the beginning, their expertise, they have specialised skills, and there's a reason that they're sitting in this department where we're looking at forecasting, budgeting, and kind of almost controlling the inflows and outflows of the business. So we don't want them to be sat as silos. We want them to be integrated across the business, using their expertise. And like you say, if we're then assisting them with technology, then you're taking the human time for mundane tasks and you're actually investing it and getting a more valuable return, aren't you?
And as a result, you're getting probably a finance team that are not having to be burdened with these processes, more feeling that actually this software, this technology, this integration or whatever it is, and the use of AI is supporting them. It's not pushing them out. It's using technology to co-pilot your team.
And that's a key word, isn't it? It's co-piloting.
So you're removing those monotonous tasks and, like as you've said before, improving efficiency.
Definitely. So we've got here a quote from our product manager. So you have to get smarter and do things in a more efficient way with the same resource. I think that's a point that we kind of keep reiterating today. But the resource is going to cost that little bit more. And at the end of the day, that's where automation comes in. So it's basically summarising what we have been talking about, this autonomous finance. However, it's all about finance chiefs shifting their perspective and attitude. Okay. So we mentioned obviously about AI. And there's that question of kind of where do you allow it or where do you stop it? So here we've kind of got that thought of, right, if finance chiefs shift their perspective and attitude and open themselves up to experimenting, So that could be with autonomous finance, it could be with AI. It's just about using the tool instead of a replacement, and where the finance function can grow stronger across this year in 2024.
Perfect. Great. You could also see AI as that kind of employee that you kind of don't want to give the rubbish jobs to, but you have to. But you don't feel bad about it because it's a robot. So your employees have got the better stuff and they can be doing the things that really make the change.
Exactly, and let them grow and become stronger. And I think overall that's creating more robust business, isn't it?
It is. And people who feel like they're actually taking charge of their work, feeling more empowered and are more likely to retain and not cost you a lot of money because you have to replace them.
Indeed. So in summary, when we're looking at finance and the challenges they have, so we've got retention, but actually if you're investing in your staff and you're building up a more robust team, then you're retaining them, they're more valuable. And when we're looking at the rising business costs and tackling them, if you've got working to more efficiency, bringing in the software that can assist you with that, and then you look at autonomous finance in terms of that software, actually overall you're building a more efficient and productive business overall, which can help address those challenges that we have.
It nicely links back to the point you raised about costs are up. If costs are up, how can we make sure that the hours of our people are spent on the things that are actually give us the best value, so we're not wasting time, because time is money, right?
Exactly. So it sounds like the finance departments are going to be very busy this year.
100%, as we all are, I'm sure. But I think, Alice, that was a really good overview, actually, of some of the challenges. And you've gone into a lot of detail of what our guide and our research is saying and what our experts are saying. If you haven't already, because you haven't been listening to the last 3 weeks as we've been talking about all these topics, you can find our roadmap for 2024 on the MHR Global website. You can also find a link to this on this podcast listing if you're on our website as well, so you can download a version. You can find out more about what we do to support finance. You can find out more of what we can do to support HR, payroll, data analytics, and learning, and how all these systems can talk together. You can hopefully find a solution for you if you haven't already got it from us. However, please do check it out. It will give you a lot of insights to what you can expect for the issues that your business or other businesses will face this year, and how simple fixes like the stuff that we're talking about can help.
Indeed. So I hope you found it interesting on our take on finance for 2024, and hopefully we'll see you back next week where we're talking about learning.
See you then.
Bye.